Hey everyone out there. I have an interesting video for you today. It's about how to pronounce the Hebrew letter Ayin. Now, this is a consonant, just like every letter of the 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet. They are all consonants. So a lot of people have the mistaken impression that Ayin just represents a vowel. So for example, if I pronounce it like I just did, Ayin, there's just of the vowel yin, Ayin. But in reality, Ayin is a consonant that can hold a vowel. So it's holding the vowel but it starts with Ayin, right? So Ayin can hold pretty much any of the vowels in Hebrew. So you've got the sort of the a, e, I, o, u sort of vowels set in Hebrew. So I'll just run through a short list of words here with it as the first letter. Avodah is work. Erev, evening. Aim, with. Or, skin. Uga, cake. So you can hear each of those words starts with that consonant, but attached with it, right following the consonant, there is a respective vowel. So avodah is a, erev is e, aim is I, or is o, or, and then uga is u, but after the u, uga. So now how to make this consonant, how to make this sound. One of the best ways that I've heard explained about how to pronounce Ayin, is to sort of go for the lowest note you could sort of sing. So So go from when you get down into the pharyngeal area, it's a pharyngeal consonant. That's, you got it. Okay. So now this is an important distinction to have, because there are a number of minimal pairs that you have in Hebrew that are going to be a different word depending on the pronunciation. So for example, I gave the word with, aim, that has ayin in it. Now without ayin, or should I say ayin, it's im, written with aleph. It means if, the word if. So aim, im, aim, aim. One means if, one means with. So very important difference. I said or was skin. Instead of writing the first letter of the word with ayin, if you write it with aleph, or means light. So or. One means skin, one means light. So it's an important distinction. I'll give you another example. Armon is chestnut. Armon is palace. So the only difference between those two words is the first one, Armon, chestnut, starts with ayin, and the second one, palace, starts with aleph. So it's ayin, Armon and Armon. So they're different. You might not be able to hear the difference, but they're different. Here's another one. So work. He worked. Avad, he worked. You hear avad. Whereas avad with aleph means to be lost. Avad. You have to practice hearing it, but it is definitely a difference. And I'll give you one more example. The words between wealth and happiness. So Ocher, that has ayin in the beginning, and it means wealth. Ocher, that has aleph in front of it in the beginning, is happiness. Ocher. One is wealth, one is happiness. So you might want to pay attention to that. Now, so unfortunately, all of that said, Hebrew, as it's spoken today by most speakers, has lost this consonant, and it is not pronounced. It's basically just sitting there as a neglected consonant that's just has its vowel pronounced. So, for example, all of those words that I just gave you, the differences between the two, the minimal pairs, in most modern Hebrew speakers will pronounce them identically. So im is pronounced im, with if, pronounced the same. Or, light skin, same. Armon, palace, chestnut, same. Avad, he worked, to be lost, the same. So Ocher, wealth, happiness, the same. So what is the point then of learning how to pronounce this consonant if most speakers don't pronounce it? Well, I mean, it is pronounced by some speakers, typically people from Middle Eastern background, Mizrahi, Jews, and some Arab speakers of Hebrew will also pronounce the difference because Arabic has this consonant as well. So I would say that it's not critical to pronounce it, but Hebrew is a Semitic language, and Ayin is a very distinctive Semitic sound. It's in other languages too, other language families, but it is tied to Semitic as well. And I think it's sad that the sound has sort of fallen out of favor. Typically, the reason is that when the language was revived, most of the people reviving it with a lot of influence and power were Ashkenazi Jews, and so they were from Europe, and they did not have any sound like that in their languages, in Russian, in Yiddish, in German, in French. They did not have. So it didn't end up being pronounced. And typically, another thing that you'll notice when I pronounce those words, I used a sort of a trill that you would have in Spanish or Italian or Arabic, as the R. That is the original Hebrew R. That is the Semitic R. Again, unfortunately, most speakers of Hebrew today will use like something akin to what you have in French R or German R. So they'll say or for skin or light, or Armon for palace or chestnut. They say instead of r. So no, it's one of those things that happened. And then one other distinction that I'll just mention in passing, I might do a video about it later, but another distinction that's lost in most speakers Hebrew is the distinction between the letter het and chaf. Het and chaf are two different letters, and unfortunately now most people who speak Hebrew pronounce them the same. Like they're both pronounced chaf. They are two separate sounds. So het is like the sound that you would have when you breathe on glasses, sort of to clean them. It's like that het, halon. But halon means window. A lot of people now, most people would say halon. Words like that are loan words from Arabic, like hummus. Most Israeli, or even not Israeli, you don't have to be Israeli to speak Hebrew. Most modern Hebrew speakers will pronounce hummus hummus. It's pronounced hummus in Arabic because it's het it's the equivalent. But unfortunately, again, because most people in modern speakers of Hebrew do not have the sound, they just say hummus, or even a very famous thing that you can say in Arabic, habibi, my love, habibi. It's not habibi, but a lot of people would say, in modern speakers of Hebrew, they'd say habibi, even though that's not correct because the proper pronunciation in Arabic is ha, and Hebrew has that letter het, but most people don't pronounce it like that. And one last example, in slang, people say achla. Achla means great or awesome, wonderful, whatever. It actually should be ahla, ahla, because that is what it is in Arabic. And again, it's the equivalent of het. It's ahla. But again, unfortunately, most people don't have that sound, so they say akhla, akhla. So everything is and r. So anyway, that's I understand languages change, and I get that um, the situation is what it is, and the language is revived, and I think that's a wonderful thing, and I'm very happy about that. But I do think it's sad that most speakers do not have very many phonemes that they would have had. They're missing het. It's its own letter in Hebrew. It's one of the 22 letters, just like Ayin is its own letter. But most people don't pronounce either one of these, unfortunately. Well, they pronounce het as chaf, but yeah. So anyway, that's just my personal opinion. No hate meant on anyone. Um, you know, languages change. I get that, but it's just unfortunate, especially because most Hebrew speakers they're around enough Arabic. They hear the sound and all the time because both of these sounds are in Arabic. But for some reason, people don't want to pronounce these sounds, and I don't know. It's too bad because at the end of the day, Hebrew is a Semitic language, and het and ayin are beautiful sounds, and they deserve to be pronounced at least some of the time. So I'm an advocate for giving them a pronunciation here and there. And same thing with the sort of original Hebrew R, like in French, not in French, like in Italian or Arabic or Spanish. It's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be. So, people give last example. People they'll say the noun for city in Arabic in Hebrew is Ayir, but most people won't pronounce the first letter, which is Ain, and then most people will pronounce the resh as r. So they'll say ir instead of ayir. So anyway, I don't know. All right, well, that's about it for this topic. I'll probably do maybe a separate video on the differences between he, het, and chaf. The three H's that you have in Hebrew. And all right, so until then.